I'm Ariel Azor, host of Right This Way, and today we're going to talk about whether or not Trump actually suggested we inject bleach into our bodies. I think it goes without saying that the media and celebrities or other just Democrats that have a big media presence don't really want to approve of anything Trump is doing, ever. And I think they've had a really hard time with his response to coronavirus because no matter what, he is trying to do what he thinks is best for this country. And I think a lot of them would have responded very similar, not celebrities. I think a lot of the politicians, Democrats or Republicans, would have responded fairly similarly to how he's responding because as president, he's not completely in control of each individual state. So he has a fairly, I don't want to say uninvolved role because he's definitely involved in the overall response as a country, but he's not involved in like when states are opening back up and when things are allowed to go back to normal, really. So he does have a somewhat removed role from that. And I think for that reason, really, it's pretty hard to say that he's doing a really bad job. His suggestions are pretty much to keep things as low-key as possible until this virus has passed and until we know that, people are going to be relatively safe. Because obviously it is a concern, people die of this virus. There's no question about that. But there's really a lot that's not very known about it and a lot of information that I think we're being left in the dark on. Several studies, like I think it was, one of them was at least an Ivy League school. It was one or two of them were Ivy League schools that said it's not nearly as deadly as they're saying it is. Their predicted numbers are total crap. This is not the magnitude that the media is telling you it is and portraying it as. So I don't think it really comes as any surprise that people jump on just about anything Trump says wrong and take it as an opportunity to say he's stupid, he's incompetent, he doesn't know what he's talking about, don't listen to a word he says. And in a time where I think for the first time in a very long time, we're seeing Americans come together to help each other in a way that I think was sort of something of the past. I mean, I've said this before, but I remember when I was a kid, which obviously is not that long ago, I was friends with all my neighbors. We knew who they were. We would bake cookies and share them with our neighbors and stuff. And things like that is people helped each other and were nicer to each other. What we've seen people doing to help each other out, to deliver groceries to elderly people and to just spend their free time and their own money making masks, face masks to donate to healthcare professionals and just to regular people even that just don't have a mask and can't leave their house to go grocery shopping without a mask now. So all of these things I think are good things to have come out of this. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that and appreciating what good comes out of a bad situation. But over and over and over again, the media tells us this is the worst thing that's happened to our country. And I'm not saying it's a good thing, but the media just tells us how bad everything is. They don't want to publish news stories about these people that are doing good things. I mean, they are, but very little. It's still so much more about people are dying and this is what's happening in New York, and New York is the worst. It's just so terrible in New York. And again, for me, that goes back to, well, who's in charge of New York, right? Because you guys want to blame the president for everything. But like I said, the state governors have a lot more control over what's happening in each state right now than Trump does. But instead of focusing on that, they'll focus on the bodies in New York and how many people are dying and how funeral homes are overwhelmed. But they won't focus on looking at the response to this. What is different about this state? Why is it so bad? And I mean, of course, it's, New York City is super densely populated compared to a lot of other places. And so that definitely contributes. But I don't think it's possible that the governor's response does not play a role in how bad New York's infection rate is. I don't think, and death rate, I don't think that that's possible that it doesn't play a role. But instead of focusing on that and digging deeper into that to make a really good story that nobody else is publishing, they're super, super concerned about telling everybody that Trump said you should just drink bleach to cure coronavirus. I'm going to pull up the real video so you can see exactly what he said, because I saw, like, I think it was Snoop Dogg. He like posted a picture of Trump drinking bleach, and he was like, Trump, you should drink bleach if you're telling people to drink bleach. And it was like so stupid because like he never said that. So yeah, I want to watch that real quick and then we'll talk about it and see what's going on there.
Supposing we hit the body with a tremendous, whether it's ultraviolet or just very powerful light. And I think you said that hasn't been checked, but you're going to test it. And then I said, supposing you brought the light inside the body, which you can do either through the skin or in some other way. And I think you said you're going to test that too. Sounds interesting.
Okay, so he's looking at the person next to him that's like a doctor, and he's confirming this is something that you said you're going to look into. So, I mean, he's talking in a press briefing. He's just talking about some of what they're looking into. Trump's not a doctor. I will totally agree with all the people that were like, Trump's not a doctor, don't listen to him. He's not a doctor. But he's getting this advice directly from doctors, and he's talking to the people, and he's saying, so we talked about this, I heard this, is this true? And I don't see the people in the video, but the way he looks back at the camera and is like, you know, like, I think that they're confirming what he's saying and saying, yeah, we're looking into that. That's what I think.
Right, and then I see the disinfectant, where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? Because you see it gets on the lungs and it does a tremendous number of the lungs. So it'd be interesting to check that. So that you're going to have to use medical doctors with. But it sounds interesting to me.
So that was obviously the point there where we think, as the media has turned it, that Trump has suggested drinking or injecting, each stories were different, bleach. He never uses the word bleach. He's talking about disinfectant, which could be bleach, could be Lysol, could be isopropyl alcohol, could be a ton of things that disinfect. So that's the first thing that we've super just exaggerated for no reason, jumped to conclusions, inferred. He doesn't say that, and I assume no sane person thinks we should just inject Lysol into our veins or bleach or isopropyl alcohol or any of those things. I don't think anybody thinks that. I think from somebody who doesn't have a lot of understanding of the medical world, me as well, would think that maybe there is something that is safe to put in our bodies. So, like, my question here would be the thing that they, like paint on you, that orange stuff, before you have, like, when you're having surgery and you get cut. That has to be a disinfectant of some sort, and they paint that on you. So I imagine that somewhat goes into your body. So I don't think it's totally unreasonable to think that there is some sort of disinfectant, something that kills germs that can go somewhere near the inside of your body. I mean, I don't think you inject it into your veins, but I don't think that's what he's saying. And I don't think he has a very good understanding of this. Now, if he doesn't have a good understanding of it, maybe he should leave it to the doctors. I don't disagree with that, but, you know, he certainly doesn't have to. He is probably trying to explain this not for, you know, the purpose of people thinking he's a doctor, but for the purpose of explaining to people that, you know, they do have potential solutions, trying to just bring people some peace about this being over soon. And I don't think that there's really anything wrong with that. But of course, people have an issue with it because, you know, they just jump at every opportunity to say, oh, he did something wrong and he's so incompetent. And it's not incompetence. It's something he said as he is looking at a medical professional next to him, and he's not saying at all what they said that he did. He's just saying, well, this is what we're looking at and this is what we're thinking about doing. Is that right? They're like, yeah, it's right. And I think the reason people care so much about this thing, because that's, again, why is it such a big deal? Because overall, they're actually pretty happy with his response. And overall, he's really not to blame for states like New York. I think it's something that I talk about again and again, is that these people are more concerned about making the president look bad and making people think he's stupid and doesn't know what he's talking about than they are about actually providing information. And I think for the most part, journalists don't have a lot of integrity any longer, which I think was something originally people were proud of. If you were a journalist or anything of the sort, any kind of writer, that you didn't just falsify information and not fact check. The point of being a journalist is to provide people with information, is to help people, I think, at the very core of it. And they're not doing that anymore. They're not helping people. And I think we've really seen, like I said in the beginning, some people starting to just like do good things. So many companies are making hand sanitizer, like disinfectants and like things like that. And companies are making face masks and all kinds of different things that we have seen the American people come together to help each other. And that's something that has happened, definitely has happened in other countries as well as they've dealt with coronavirus. But I think in America, the response we have seen is startling compared to our regular, everyday cultural norms. You know, like in Italy and things like that, people are more focused on hospitality and they're nicer to strangers and things like that. But in American culture, that's really not something that people typically go out of their way to help other people or strangers or even just on a daily basis to actually just be super kind to somebody that you don't know. And so I think it's nice that we're seeing that. And I mean, obviously, you know, I'm focusing mostly on, again, the media lying to you and telling you that this is so much worse than it is. And again, it is bad. It's never a good thing that people are dying. It's never a good thing that there's uncertainty about this disease. And it's certainly not something to ignore. And I'm not saying that, but at this point in time, from the response we have seen from the media versus actual people that want to get back to work or their regular day lives or their daily lives, things like that, they actually are helping each other and they're showing kindness to each other where they maybe normally wouldn't. And I think it's bringing people together in a different way. And instead of focusing on that at all, the media wants to focus on stupid things like bashing politicians. I think it's another example of a huge exaggeration of what actually happened being printed into a real story. And not just one story, several stories that all have a slightly different variation of hyperbole and how Trump said this when this is the reality. And you know what the worst part is? It was so difficult for me to find this video that I put up here. I mean, the media, these news websites, they don't want you to see the real video of what happened because anybody who watches it doesn't take from it what the news story is telling you he said. You do not listen to that clip, watch that clip, and think, he's saying I should drink bleach. I'm going to drink bleach. Nobody takes that from that. I'm honestly a little bit impressed with the journalist who thought that up and got that much out of that little thing that he said. And I mean, I think we should be more concerned about that. And I say this all the time, that the media should not be allowed to control what we think and what we believe. And I think in this time especially, the media has so much power over us because it's kind of the only news we're seeing is whatever news station you watch or whatever you get on your phone or whatever it is that you read in the morning, you're seeing that news and that news alone. And it has so much power over you and control because it's the only thing giving you information because we're not allowed to leave our houses because the media is now in control of our church. Easter Sunday we had to watch Easter Sunday church on Fox News. I'm a little bit concerned that the media has that much control over our everyday lives. If you enjoyed this episode, you can give me a thumbs up on YouTube. You can leave a review on Apple Podcasts, and you can also check out my Instagram at right.this.way.